Hey YouTube. So I was walking around and I saw a little bridge here in Philadelphia. Check this out. Where does this bridge go? Of course, I'm in the old section of Philly. Independence Hall is over there. Carpenter's Hall is right here. This is where the revolution took place, and the Declaration of Independence was, of Independence was signed in Independence Hall over there. So what's this little bridge doing on this old road? Historic Dock Creek. The grassy depression in front of you marks the location of Dock Creek, a spring-fed tidal stream that flowed here when Philadelphia was founded. Its waters emptied into the Delaware River about 4 blocks ahead of you. By 1767, city wastes had fouled the water so badly that sections of the creek were arched over and covered by Dock Street. Today, only traces of the creek bed remain. So this little bridge is going over an ancient creek. And if we look under the bridge, what do we see? You can see the old cobblestones, maybe from the bed of the creek or roads that have been built here over time. That's it. So, one thing I've always said is, now, if we follow the creek down, in the landscape, the Native Americans always built their villages where one body of water meets another body of water, right? And this creek flows all the way from 5th Street down across 4th Street and then over to what is now Dock Street. Now, before the settlers showed up, this creek bed that I'm walking through now would have been a very wide creek, much like the other creeks in Pennsylvania in this area. And for hundreds and thousands of years, the Native Americans would have fished in this creek, and they would have made their villages and lived their lives here. And now, all that's left is a bit of an overgrown thicket next to this building, which is the first bank of the United States. Now, I don't think we're going to find anything left of the old creek bed. I mean, this is all stone that is modern, that's been put here. I don't even think the culvert that goes under the street is still accessible there. It's all filled in. There are some rocks that look tempting, right? This could be something. It could have been something, but I doubt it. I don't think these are very old. I expect that most of these rocks are from the time when the creek was being filled in. Hard to say, though, over the years. Look at this one. This could be an old creek bed rock. It has a bit of mica in it. Now, over the centuries, as the city grew around Independence Hall and around the original colonial center of Philadelphia, the creeks slowly filled in with trash and debris and silt, and eventually this creek ran dry. Now, of course, this creek would have continued across the street, and over there's Dock Street. And if you notice, Dock Street is sort of curved, right? It kind of, this is, there's the first bank. This is very straight. And then this street kind of curves around. And over here is City Tavern, where the founding fathers plotted the revolution. A lot of the colonial buildings are over there, on that side of Dock Street. Now, of course, the reason it's curved is that Dock Street is built over the old Dock Creek. Oh, someone's having a wedding there. That's beautiful. Now, by the time the old City Tavern was built, this creek would have been long filled in, and Dock Street would have become an old fish market, essentially. Now, if we walk down here, you can see Dock Street comes from around this building, and then it continues diagonally over to Society Hill Towers, around the base of Society Hill Towers, and into what was the banks of the Delaware River. Look at how Dock Street curves in an S. You know, it kind of comes around and then it curves that way. It's like an S. Now, of course, the bend in the road is a remnant of a bend in the creek. So there's City Tavern, and I want you to just try to imagine, back there is Dock Street, and just imagine about 1,000 years ago, there was a creek running here along, you know, this is Dock Street, but there was a creek and it went that way. And we would have been standing on a little peninsula right now, where over there is where Penn's Landing is. And when William Penn and the Quakers showed up, they would have landed right about here and greeted the Indians on the banks of what was Dock Creek going into the interior of Philadelphia. So why am I telling you about this old creek and the Native Americans who lived here? Well, we've now arrived at the reason for this little walking tour. Here is the old Bookbinder's building. This restaurant was a famous restaurant for decades and decades. Throughout the 20th century, many famous people have come and dined here. Frank Sinatra, many others, politically powerful, famous movie stars. This place was an institution in Philly for decades and decades before it shut down. One of the things I love about this place is that it started as a fish stall, a stall on the old dock, the fish market on the docks in Philly. It just was like an oyster shucking station where sailors and other people, you could just walk up to this stall and buy your fish, buy your oysters, and they'd shuck them right there for you. And it got so popular that eventually it turned into this famous old restaurant. Now, there are some interesting things. As a side note, the Gettysburg Address is on the side of this building. So if you're ever around and you want to read the Gettysburg Address, there it is. Okay, but what does the Bookbinder's building have to do with Native Americans, right? What are we talking about here? Well, you know, when Bookbinder's shut down, this building was kind of old. It needed some renovations. They needed basically to restore the building and rebuild it from scratch. So they tore down. I think they tore down the whole building and maybe kept the facade. I'm not sure, but essentially the whole back end of the building was removed and rebuilt. And in the process of rebuilding these buildings, there was an excavation done under the old Bookbinder's restaurant, and in a very narrow strip of land. I want to say, from the paper I read, the strip of land was maybe on this side of the building, or maybe it was over there, but it was about maybe a couple feet wide, only a couple feet wide, and 20 feet long. In that little section of the foundation of this building, the excavators found an old piece of the original ground level earth and soil from the colonial days when William Penn showed up. And as they dug through the old soil, they brought in archaeologists, thankfully, who very carefully dug through the old soil, and lo and behold, they found arrowheads or stone tools of some sort. So basically, right there was a Native American village for thousands of years. We don't know what the village would have been called. It's very likely that William Penn and other colonists walked this earth with Native Americans right here. And you know what? Now I'm gonna cut to me in the future, showing you the map and showing you Dock Street, how it runs through this neighborhood, and then the paper or the post that I found about the old village that was found under the Bookbinder's restaurant. Hey, Future Sean here. So I wanted to show you the map real quick. So if you look here, here's Independence Hall, as you can see on Google Maps, right? Classic Independence Hall. And then if you come down here, you see there's this little street right here, right? Called Dock Street, and it curves around and then goes into the Delaware River. And this is what I was talking about, when I was showing you how Dock Street kind of curves. It follows this old creek bed that was there before the city rose up in its current location. Now, this is a website called the Philadelphia Archaeological Forum. It looks fairly old. It's one of these websites that's been around for many years, I think. Um, and I wanted to show you basically this article about the archaeological site that was found under the original Bookbinder's uh, restaurant. In 2005, you can see this is the Dock Street location. This is where that old creek was. And in this little red circle, a red rectangle, is where the Bookbinder's restaurant was. In 2005, it was renovated. Um, and when they dug it up, they found artifacts. So this is what it would have looked like when William Penn arrived with the colonists. You can see here that, oops, let me zoom in a little bit. Oh, well, you can see that William Penn is landing here or colonists have settled here on this little peninsula, and this river going in, this creek bed, that was Dock Creek, right? So let's come back, zoom out again here a little bit. There we go. And over time, this creek got filled in and paved over. Now, if we scroll down here, you can see that in 2005, the old building had to be torn down. This building here in the back is the City Tavern, where the founding fathers met to discuss the Revolution. So City Tavern is where George Washington and Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and all of the famous people that we know of as the founding fathers went there after Congress, and had drinks and food and talked about the Revolution. Now, across the street from that, this is the old Bookbinder's site that was being dug up. And thankfully, they brought in some archaeologists. Honestly, according to this article, they didn't bring in archaeologists or give archaeologists enough power or opportunity to go through all the soil that was found there. But at least you can see on this map where they found certain things that are of interest. So this area here is where City Tavern was on 2nd Street, or that's where it is. And then across the street is the site they were digging up, and this blue area is this light blue area, I think just the light blue, is the old soil from the original part. So let me read this to you a little bit. By the time construction monitoring was finished, archaeologists had documented 10 historical brick-lined shafts, features, the below-ground parts of privies or outhouses, as well as some 1,500 square feet of preserved original ground surface, shaded dark blue in the site map below. So I believe they mean this general area here. Now, unfortunately, in this instance, archaeologists were afforded no clear authority or legal mandate to halt construction and perform detailed, controlled investigations of these finds. Too bad. Now, you can see against this wall, looking at the photos, you can see it's this wall here. Okay, so literally just across the street from City Tavern. This wall on the side of the construction zone, when they looked at the base of the wall, they found this darker layer was undisturbed original ground surface that William Penn and the Native Americans walked on. And when they dug into that surface, they found these stone points. So let me read this. In all, nearly 40 prehistoric artifacts were pulled from the historic ground surface within this site, including a stemmed projectile point made from argillite, left, a quartzite scraping tool, right. So they mean this one. This is the scraping tool, and this is the projectile point, manufacturing debris, and a single small piece of native pottery. These objects indicate that the site was probably occupied sometime during the early woodland period, circa 1000 BC to 0 AD. That's 1,000 years before Christ was born. 1000 BC. Okay? That's 3,000 years ago. So this site has been occupied for thousands of years. Now, they found other interesting features like these pits, which were possible evidence of Native American activity. All indications are that this site was extremely well preserved prior to construction, and that it could have provided a great deal of information about the Native American residents of this area had archaeologists been afforded the opportunity to conduct thorough, controlled excavations. But, of course, they didn't have that permission, so we'll never know what else they could have found. I mean, look how small in this entire city landscape they found 40 objects, 40 prehistoric artifacts in just this tiny little area. I mean, think about how much more is probably around the rest of the city in this general vicinity. You know, they found the Bookbinder's restaurant is right here, right at this where, you know, the old Dock Creek went into the Delaware, right about here, right at the tip of that peninsula is where this old village was. And just imagine what else they could have found under these buildings, or just had they been given a better opportunity to excavate. So I wanted to show you that on the map, so you can see on the ground, you get a better sense of what I'm talking about when I say that this is Dock Street, paved over the old Dock Creek, and Dock Creek was there for thousands of years, and we have evidence that Native Americans lived right here, blocks from Independence Hall, right across the street from City Tavern. That's an old Native American village site. So there you go. Okay, so that's it. That's the story of the village that was likely in this whole area, just north of Dock Street. You know, Dock Creek came this way for thousands of years. And then on this spit of land, right where Dock Creek meets the Delaware, is where the Lenape would have had a village. All right, so that's really it. I guess the last thing I'll say about this special place is that I think it's, you know, we're in the middle of Philadelphia. We're in the center of the city, and yet there's still remnants of the ancients here. You know, I always say this, we live in an ancient landscape, and people they don't think about that. I don't think people realize how ancient this place is. And the very fact that you could dig up an old restaurant like Bookbinder's, and in the soil beneath the restaurant find, you know, stone tools and traces of an ancient people who lived here for thousands of years. That's very special. It's very special. And you can read the landscape of the city and still see the remnants of these ancient peoples, you know, and the landscape that they lived on. This is Dock Street. It's an ancient waterway that's now paved over, but for thousands of years, this was a flowing creek with birds and fish and animals. Native Americans, the Lenape, certainly had a word for this creek. I don't know what they would have called it. It's been lost to time. We don't know what the name of that village was. It's been lost to time, but they were the first people here. And I always find that very interesting about Philly, how old this city is, you know? Okay, let's go take one last look through the bars here down at the old creek. There it is. So there's the old creek bed as it is today. That's all that's remaining. Okay, so, you know, not my usual video here. We're in the city today, not in Delco or any of the other counties outside Philly, but I hope you still liked this creek walk. And if you did, if you like these bits of history focused on Native American and ancient Lenape history, please give me a like and a subscribe. It means a lot, and it helps the algorithm, as you all know. So appreciate it. Leave a comment letting me know what you think of this story. And my name's Sean. This is my channel, Saul Good, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.